Well, good morning, everyone. This is Cole's Corner, and today is a podcast number 8. And we have 8 right usable books. And so, what I'm going to do today, I'm going to talk from the very end of the book, from the result of what these books are actually all about. And what is the actual right use of will? I mean, how do we use? And I think the word "use" in this sense, it's not a very nice word. Like, how do we use it? And we just don't use the will. We just should be so grateful that we have it, that it's in us, it was given to us, and that we're healing it or we healed it. And I don't know how many of you have entered into the actual series of the books of Right Use of Will. First book is just a mild introduction to the series. Very important, I would say the most important book of all, because it sets up the precedent, sets up another way of approaching and another way of using the will. Because at this point, we mostly misuse it. Many of us really don't even know what this will actually is. People say, oh, the will of God. The will of God is da-da-da. And then we leave it at that. But what is the actual will? What is the experience of it? What is its function? And how does it work when it's really begin to do what it's supposed to be? Even saying "do" it's a wrong word. What is its function when it operates in its natural virgin state? Yeah, it basically is the Virgin Mary. Yes. Because it's a pure manifestation of what is right now. What is right now, without the mind having this idea that there is future and there is past. What is it? What is that expression in the now? And what really happened? Spirit split from the will, let's say. And then this little part of the spirit called mind, which came way, 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 way later after that separation, decided that it can actually sort this thing out somehow. But it can't. Without the will, the mind is just not even secondary, but it's like third in a row of separation. It's very far away from the original split. And that's why there is no answer in the mind. We can even load our mind with spiritual concepts, with ideas, with, those little fridge stickers that say, be in the now. Yeah? Be in the now. How can you be in the now if everything is rooted? I mean, virtually rooted in time. It's all rooted in time in here, right? In creation, there is no such thing as time. There is like this eternal now that goes just now. It's always now. And it's an unimaginable experience. Yeah, it's totally different to when one is rooted in time. And because we name everything, and we name what seems like a sequence, which is divided into this, sort of timing of some kind. And we kind of live in this linear thing. But when the will comes back, all of this gets dislodged. And so what I talk about today is more like How does the will operate when it's free, and when the spirit is actually present for it? So first of all, feeling is a much slower vibration than thinking. So first of all, if you want to know ask yourself a question: how am I really feeling? And now watch the mind wants to rush in and define. You don't want this definition. This definition is actually a mind that is functioning on a misread imprint it received what seems like a long time ago, but it's still affecting you now, affecting the whole human race, unless there is some real awakening. And let me tell you, there is so much awakening out there that's going on that's got nothing to do with awakening, because without the will there is no awakening. There's just the first stage where you remember, I am the light of the world, or I am love, or I am that, but that's just the I am. And it seems very singular, right? But no matter how much you might be in this experience of I am that, something emotional will always creep in that seem to be want to take this I am that away. Okay? And that is just a tiny little bit of a surface part of the will. Yeah. Underneath that is will, divine will. But then there is another part of us which is called the lost will. And this is part of the will that haven't had a chance to express yet. That it's dormant, that it's there, and we have to have a certain vibrational speed to even go somewhere near it, and have enough understandings to know what to do with it when we get there. And this is where Right Yourself was so beautiful, because it gives you this amazing story of creation, and obviously also what went wrong in it. Because if we look at the world the way it is now, something's gone wrong. We have to admit that. And even if you're sitting in some kind of bubble somewhere, thinking, well, I'm at peace, you would have to also be able to see it wherever you go. And if that is so, well, then it's all good. But if we see things and we're getting triggered by the things we see, there's something else gone pretty crazy. And when we look at the world right now, it's not very sane. People are isolated. People are afraid they might get a COVID. Some pretend that it doesn't bother them, and so on. So somewhere something happened, and this Right Yourself Will is this amazing story of creation that suggests that this story should trigger you, and then you close the book, and then you go into the trigger and you give it a full expression of how it wants to express, not how you think you should express, not you saying, well, I'm just gonna move this feeling and I'm gonna shift this around, right? It's exactly what Will doesn't want to do. Will wants to express the way she wants to express. And we need to learn how to give her a space to do it. And I'm talking men or women. It's the same thing, really. Because every man has his own masculine and feminine, and every woman has her own masculine and feminine. And a lot of men around the planet now are softening into more feeling. But there's also lots of ladies that are now becoming quite, polarized towards mind and mission and clarity, and more of like a masculine aspect, which is very important, without which we can't be a whole person. And so for a man, it's very important to be able to get in touch with his real feelings, yeah. And also for the ladies to get in touch with their real thoughts, with those thoughts that illuminate the mind. And when the mind is illuminated, her feminine explodes into her nature and into her true expression of who she is. Whereas for a man, it's different. For a man, he needs to clear the muddy pond that's below, which is his, emotional intelligence, and under that have the capacity to stay present, to have a capacity to stay present for the feelings that arise, and have a refinedness with which he can then not only feel these feelings, but actually get the understandings from feelings. So when the mind awakens in a man, he becomes a little bit more receptive to this emotional state of his, rather than denying it. And there are many spiritual paths that are based on denial of anything emotional, saying, hey, this is not real, only this is real. And they kind of separate themselves into this singular mind or singularity. It's just there is only one thing, there's only one God. And Raji Savul, he says something very interesting. He says, I am one God, but I have 4 parts. And if any of these 4 parts is in any way in odds with the others, there is no wholeness. But there is this part of us that can go, well, I am one and the rest of you are nothing. Yeah. And that can be a very long path to nowhere. Because this will always move. And this will always be in some way activating the peace, and the peace of the mind of the man will be gone. So very important for a man to clear the pond below and begin to look at his own reflection, what he looks like when the pond is cleared. Yeah. And when he really looks, and before he knows it, he will clear up the muddy stuff, express, and like I said before, this pond will turn into a golden mirror, and this golden mirror begins to actually show the man his real face. So in that sense, that's the idea of Kali, will virtually cut his head off, and he will awaken himself to a new him, to a new me. Yeah. This new me will be very present for this will. And when this new me is present for the will unconditionally, she begins to reflect it. If she reflects anything less, then she's just reflecting what his mind is doing. So, this really should be the right use of mind. But we have to go through the will. There is no way around it. And so can you see how this is not an easy thing to explain? And obviously my English and just the way I am, I can't put words into a perfect order, because it's constantly emerging as I follow the feeling. And I'm still reading the feeling sometimes. I'm still needing more time to feel. So when we ask ourselves, how am I really feeling? Number one is to stop and virtually put the mind on a pause. The mind now is turning more into this presence that is receptive to what is arising. Right? Now, what might begin to start arising then, if the mind stops judging and trying to rush in and decide what it's seeing, and make up a story of the sort of the shallow feeling that he catches right at the beginning, because the feeling is slow and it takes a while until the feeling expresses itself. Right? So now he becomes present. This is like when man is truly present for a woman, she begins to function differently. Obviously, when a woman is open in her deep feelings, the man immediately begins to function differently. What seems to be happening in this world, that the women are waiting for this present man, and men are waiting for this, open women, but it seems like neither is happening. And of course, there are some instances where it is happening, but to have a man to be fully present will definitely create a completely different day for a woman than when a man is in his little world somewhere doing his own thing and is actually not with her. Even so, it seems like they're living in the same house. That's why a lot of women decide to be single, because there's no one to be present for them, right? And vice versa, And but this is just an example of what is happening in us. My spirit becomes awake to be enough, present enough for the will. Because we think, one day I awake and then it'll be all done. I'm awake or I'm enlightened. But enlightenment doesn't come until the heart is exploding. And heart cannot be exploding really without the will. Of course, we can have a momentary days where something happens and our heart explodes, and but maybe 2 or 3 days later it's not so. It's not the same, or we're wondering what actually happened. Where is the love gone now? And it's got all to do with these 4 parts, And now we are talking only about part 1 and part 2 of the series. So you go. Spirit becomes extremely present for the will. Then will becomes more open to the spirit, and she begins to dig in a little bit deeper and pour out all these unexpressed things that are sitting there, because finally there is somebody present for it and to receive it. Now they are, let's say, they are now in some kind of communication or communion. He's present and she's open. More present he becomes, more open she goes. More open she goes. More present he becomes. And this is such a profound moment that it's beyond description. Comes this profound warmth and magnetism within us. And that is the moment where the will actually reverberates the heart again. And the mind, the father aspect, is able to also hold its aspect of it. And so now they're birthing this heart. Now they're birthing this new love. If you say, I know what love is, well, you do, but is it happening now? Is it the now experience where every cell in your body is oozing and vibrating this expression? And that's just the third stage in a way, where the heart is born, right? And to be able to sustain this heart expression, we need to sustain this presence between will and spirit and the will. And so they're in a constant communication together. And instead of getting caught in a reflection of what we see outside of ourselves, we spend more time with this inner reflection, because the minute we align the inner, the outer will reflect something else. But if the outer is reflecting a separation of the spirit and the will, and we get caught up and trying to fix the outer, we're going to be here forever, and we've been here forever. We've been here for a long time doing this. But, there is no idea of what this will really is, what is its function, and how it really works in creation. So when this spirit becomes unconditionally present and focused on its own will, she will begin to dance. She will begin to reverberate itself, and she begins to create the new. Right? And this is really the birth of the goddess, the feminine, right? You can keep describing, you can read stories about it, but it's got to be happening in you. And it's got to be the full Monty. It's got to be the full reverberation that is brand new every day, and it teaches us new every day. We no longer need to read books, because it's everything that's ever needed to be written. It's already in us and in its full expression. Like God has given us this profound well of endless possibilities of creation. Just to set an example, like closing the eyes, before I had this sort of like an imagery going on in my head. Now I can see a blue color, but it's like blue like I've never seen before, and or red, and it's just like, oh my God, yeah, that's all I can say. And it's such a subtle realm that even sometimes, even if I take a breath, and kind of it slows down, or it stops creating. Yeah. So to really train ourselves to get to this place where we actually don't do anything, because doing is that which takes creation away. Creation is already perfect, ready to radiate and ready to create, and we go, wow, what's my part in this? There's something I must do, And what happened for me, I came to this place like, oh my God, it's when I do nothing. And again, do nothing is me. It looks like I am actually doing nothing. This gets even more refined. Like I don't even do nothing. It's simply enter into this absolute non-action. And it's Course in Miracles actually nails it in one of the lessons. She says, I step back and let the feeling lead the way. Yeah? Because she's the one who actually creates, and the spirit mind is just watching this creation to happen. Actually, in some orders, there is a, the masculine is that which does not move. It's just this solid stillness. And the feminine is everything that moves. So you see something move, that's feminine. You see something static, you go to a city and there's these buildings, poof, that's masculine. It doesn't move, just erect, standing there. Hello, here we are. And everybody around that energy is on a mission. And then you come to the place where I live, which is Byron Bay, Australia, and everything here moves, and it's feminine, and it flows, and it's nature, and it's all the people are like, hi. They're like, oh, Byron Bay, it's where all druggies are, right? And we actually now all moved away from Byron Bay, and we live in the surroundings of Byron Bay, because Byron Bay also got devastated, and it's just another sort of commercial town. But it used to be a mecca of hippies, and so they all disappeared in the forest. But it's also an area where great healers, meditation retreats, I mean, name it. This is really mecca of spirituality of Australia is in this area, and I'm sure every country has one of those areas. But in here, everything's so feminine. So for a man to actually get a job, it's like not an easy thing. It's like you're in this flowing river and you just go a little bit. If you go with the flow, you're good. But if you're trying to get somewhere, you kind of have to push a bit. I guess feminine completely takes over, you know, like the will. It completely takes over. There's a great movie called Independence Day. Great movie, silly movie in a way. But there is an amazing metaphor in there, where is this amazing mothership comes in, and from that mothership comes these little UFOs, and they fly over Earth, and they cover up every city, and those little UFOs are these massive structures that shade over the major towns of all over the world, and it's ready to destroy it. And so they figure out that the only way to stop this invasion is to go back to the mothership and insert a virus in there. And this is what I'm pointing to. So this, gosh, I can't remember their names. I think it was Will Smith and another guy, and they flying into this little kind of speedy airplane back to this mothership, right, with this virus, and they fly in and they get in, right, and at some point they lose control and are like, oh my god, we're screwed, we lose control, there's nothing here. And the other guy goes, relax, the mother will not let you go, you know, she takes the control and she will lead you where she wants you, right? And this is exactly what I'm talking about. We can go to these feelings, we can not even go into them. That's really a rape. That's really an invasion of Will's privacy. I mean, she's an indescribable presence. And when we come, at some point, we come close enough where she goes, okay, I'll let you in. But obviously in a movie they were bringing in the virus. But the will actually is so refined that she picks up on any virus, and there's no way she lets you in if your mind is not purified. And the mind gets purified through these books, because what happens as you read along the books, there is this understandings. So he gives this story, or she gives this story, and then some understandings are given. Or sometimes they say, now we're going to do this and this and this, and this might arise in you. Know that this is this and this and this, and you can do sort of this and this and this, but we don't know what will arise. So they can't give you that exact sort of roadmap. But really, the Righteous Soul whole series is like this amazing roadmap to feelings. It's like, oh, somewhere in there at some point I just went, oh my God, I really understand this. And in that sense, there is so much that is impossible to understand. But there is some kind of knowing, like there is this roadmap. And I could be deeply intimate with my partner, and I kind of suddenly see all these different reenactments from the books happening. And I'm feeling things, I always feel things in her presence that it's very hard for me, even as a man who's been working with this for a long time, to feel. I come in her presence, she helps me to feel deeper. My function with her is to define certain things in a way that she can't define. So in that sense, we mutually sort of support each other, that I offer her what she doesn't necessarily have, and my presence is always stronger than hers, and vice versa. When she opens up this will, because I am so what do you call it? Let's say unshakably present with her, where her will basically opens up like a flower to the sun. Yeah, and I think that metaphor of the sun and the Son of God is a very similar thing, because so let me just go a little bit more into expressing on how does it work. So if I have an idea of a feeling, let's say, take something as simple as, feeling good. It's the most basic feeling, is just, how are you? Oh, it feels so good. Right? Now, how do we manifest that? What does the will do with that? The will's gonna birth it to a brand new feel good place, right? So I've done this before, I'll do this again, because this is such a key. If you actually learn how to establish this in yourself, you're gonna feel good a lot. And at the end, no matter what we do in life, at the end, we do it to feel good. We just want to feel good. But when we finally get there, there are many things that take that away. So we need to learn, what are the blocks to love's presence? In that sense, what are the things that will take this feeling good away from me? Well, first of all, it's the thought. Yeah. So sit there and just get the idea of feeling good, and then somewhere you will have a tiny little feeling, just a tiny one. Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, actually, because will is only reflecting what the thought is doing, and thought is now establishing that we're gonna feel good. Okay, even so, it's just an exercise. So feel good, and I just want you to say yes to everything I say, just for a moment, if you dare. And it's only because if you don't do that, your mind will begin to think how you should be either doing this differently, or what is this, and you have all these thoughts. And what these thoughts do, they take you away. They take you away from the now experience. Yeah, the thought comes in and goes, what is this? And then something in that thought wants to give an answer, but next minute you are in that dialogue between the two thoughts, and you're gone from a feeling, and you're gone from you, and you're gone from experiencing the eternal now, which comes from feeling good. Because when you have that, you're just not creating anything else. And because our mind is so undisciplined, and it's so caught up and so filled with data that it's absolute garbage, including a lot of spiritual data is junk, right? Because it just fills in the brains on how you should be and what's a right spiritual attitude, and then you try to fit into this right spiritual attitude, and it's got nothing to do with spirituality. It's just another rule. It's just another law of some kind. So just say yes, okay? So feel good. Feeling it? Say yes. Because the mind goes, well, I don't know if I'm feeling it. No, you just go, say yes. And when you say yes, something really amazing happens. Like yes of life. I'm just going to say yes to what's arising, what's coming. And so now that you're feeling that feeling, can you allow yourself to feel that feeling a bit more? Say yes. Right there. It has to be very confident yes. And then you might notice that actually your vibration of your body is slightly different, even ever so slightly. And now, can you allow that feeling to be felt in your feet? Yes. In your ankles? Yes. In your whole legs? Yes. In your whole body? Just keep feeling it. And now mind going quiet. Now mind is going like, alright, something is overriding my action, my interruption. It's like the mind is like an interrupting cow. So keep saying yes. And can you allow it to be felt a bit more? Yes. And now, if you really done this with a little bit of presence, you will notice that you're locked onto this feeling good feeling. That's just the beginning. Now your next thing, what happens if you actually open space for this feeling to actually begin to radiate from you? They will. So now you get this idea that can you allow yourself to have this feeling expand out of your body a bit more and begin to feel the room you're occupy. You say yes. That's what we're doing now. And then can you allow this feeling to thicken even more just by mere expression of it in a feeling way. The mind is out of the way at this point. We are simply creating an idea, This is word becoming flesh, right? But maybe not there yet. And so then you open the windows and you let this feeling to flood wherever you find yourself. Just get this sense that you're actually just flooding. It's like a river that floods the area. And you go, yes. And just keeps going and keeps going. And what you realize, you're like the sun that shines in every direction equally. So you have light coming out of your front, out of your rear, up, down, in every direction. You're an oozer. You're just oozing this feeling good. And you're learning how to live there. Because we do so much to feel good. And at the end, we don't reap what we sow. So this is actually reaping what we saw. We saw an idea, it manifested, and then you go, oh God, I love this. You say yes. Because the mind can go, well, is this it? Well, it's just the beginning, yeah? Because what actually happens, speed of light, very fast, right? Feeling is actually, the minute it's expansive, it joins in with the whole creation. So you can go to the very end of cosmos, if there is such a thing, and simply be there. Because it's already all one and connected. This is like a perfect labyrinth of creation. And the only way to join it is to unite with it. So falling into union is actually falling into this feeling of everything's one. Now the mind can rush in and just give you thousands of little things, how this can't be so, or what about this and what about that. Just remember, it's an interrupting cow. It's like, don't. You go, mind, I'm doing good. Right now, I'm creating, just feeling good. And so you begin to express feeling good. And I'd say, try this for an hour. If the mind kicks in, you go, no, not now. I'm doing this. And by sort of getting it out of our bodies and allowing it to radiate, we're actually giving it. It is how we give of ourselves. And we become the ruler of our universe, because we're just doing this. We're doing how we want it. I want it like this. And then it becomes incredibly nurturing. But here comes the fourth part. So we had idea, spirit comes with an idea. The will begins to manifest it. Yeah, if the mind is undisciplined, it will go from one thing to another, to another, to another, to another, every thought, every second thought, every third thought. And the will has no chance to manifest anything. It's actually manifesting this messed up world, because the thoughts are too fast and she doesn't manage to create anything tangible, right? Creating wealth and houses and cars and I don't know what, riches. It's a creation with the apostrophes of this world. But the real creation's got nothing to do with form as such, as having something sitting here and going like, whoa, my creation. Now that's, in this world we make stuff up. So, this beautiful guitar sitting here, it's just somebody made it. They didn't create it, they just made it. They made it slightly different to another guitar, but it was just, inspiration to make it different, Creating is this. Right now, if you follow this for a moment, we're creating. Right? Your feeling good is going to be very different to mine. They don't have to be identical, right? But it's this action of allowing the will to manifest whatever the idea is. So now, we've done that. The heart comes in and goes, oh, I love this. Finally, there's some peace. And it begins to ignite itself in this as a loving presence, right? Not only feeling good, now we have a loving presence that's beginning to be birthed in there. It is a birth of Christ. And here comes the fourth part. It comes the body, right? The physical, the form. Now, if you're really doing this correctly and you're still with me and you haven't gone in your thoughts somewhere else, you're going to have to feel that every cell in your body is vibrating in a speed of feeling good. So it's vibrating in a speed of light that feels good to you. Your good might not feel very good to me, but that's not important. What's important is it feels good to you. Right? And we're just doing something as simple as feeling good, an idea of feeling good. And if you just do this every day, you begin to feel good for no good reason. For no good reason, you just feel good. And what it does, it actually, if you did this correctly, if you still find yourself wondering and you still engage in just your mind, if you're doing this correctly, you're gonna have to smile. There's no way around this. For me, healing was always to make happy. Every time I healed something, it just brought humor and joy and an alignment, inner peace and contentment. And then people around me begin to change, and new people came to my life. And we live in this incredible harmony together. That's genuine. I don't have to deny something. I can still I can still say anything I want to say and how I say it and what's going on, and it's all good. It's all good because it's understood. And it's understood that maybe something's arising from the will that has not had a chance to come before. And off it goes, and off it goes. And so that was just feeling good idea, right? Now you can do this with anything. And eventually, and I warmly recommend this after a certain time, you allow yourself to do this with a feeling that's not so good. You know? Can you allow yourself to feel it? And manifest the idea of not feeling too good. And it's going to be something very surprising happening in there. Suddenly, even what seemed to be a bad feeling begins to actually feel good. And I don't know how many of you guys really looked into the steps to healing and a complete recovery. It says complete recovery. It doesn't say some kind of recovery. It says a complete recovery, because you keep using what's around you, in your immediate vicinity. Not necessarily so much what you see on the internet, because that's the realm of endless possibilities. Many of them not true. It's just someone's ideas, someone's theories. But what's happening around you, just what kind of people come to your life, what feelings they bring up in you, and then give each feeling that manifestation, so it actually no longer is rejected. Because if we have any feelings that are rejected in us, we're going to magnetize to us people who are gonna trigger these feelings. And then we say, well, he triggers this in me, right? He triggers me. No, he triggers this in you. Be grateful. Go, oh, thank you. See ya. You actually, the minute you're triggered by the person, you no longer need them, unless you need to be re-triggered if your mind is undisciplined and you can't really stay with one feeling. So you might use that person to be around just to fully get the feeling that's in you that's not yet forgiven or accepted or expressed or evolved through the expression of it. So let's say you meet somebody, they trigger some kind of grief in you, right? So now, what's your relationship to that grief? And you realize your relationship to the grief is not that good. And you just allow yourself to resurrect that feeling. You're with it, and you step back, and you let that feeling to express the way we felt and expressed feeling good. And it might not be as gentle and as peaceful, but it will express the way it needs to express. I step back and let the will express the will it needs to express. And that's the real expression. The minute we step in and trying to process and it's like, ooh, one day I did this, now I'm going to do it again. Well, you're not really expressing the way the will needs to express right now, because for her, it's always brand new. And Righteous Soul suggests to make sound. And if any of you is doing that, notice if you're doing the same sound every single time you trigger it, because that's just another tool, that's another trap, right? I know people who, so like, I'm triggered, and they always do this like a horn on an old youth, and then you go, wow, what you doing? I'm triggered. So, are you? really expressing what's really there? Or are you just going like, oh, this is the sound I always make when I get triggered, right? And, oh, these are the movements I always make when I'm triggered. So the will is intricate, and it's like, hey, how do you want to express now? And now I step back and I get the will to move my body. I get the feeling to go, how do you want to express? And then she goes, oh God, finally. Finally he's not making that stupid sound again. And finally, he's not doing that same old movement that always happens when that mind thinks it's triggered. And then you begin to get in touch with these refined qualities of a brand new expression every single time. Eventually, you stop having conflict with anything what seems like the negative. You even stop having a conflict with things like feelings that in some people don't even exist, like fury or like intense rage, because they've trained their mind not to rage. But all of these are very beautiful energies when they're free, and when we release all the judgments against them, they're just a beautiful expression of their quality. They don't hurt anybody because they have consciousness in them. They're not gonna lash out at somebody. They're not gonna say harsh words because it's unnecessary, because they know it's just unconsciousness there. But when you become fully conscious, you can be in any expression of your will, of your feeling, and it becomes beautiful. Like I said, I expressed hate till the end, and that was just this most exquisite love that I've ever experienced. I've expressed, rage that didn't scream. It was more like I go, God, how do I express this differently than I do every other time? And suddenly just like this sound came out, and it was like, oh my God, I feel like I express more rage than ever. And you go, well, that doesn't sound like rage to me. It's just like, yeah, it doesn't sound like rage to me either. So what I want to finish off with, Barry just sent this sayings of Jesus yesterday, and maybe I'll do a next podcast, particularly if there is interest for it. I'd like to do a next podcast on how to actually use those sayings of Jesus. And I know many of you know, but I just want to give you like a right usable approach to all these sayings that Jesus said. And really, when you look at those, they're just very simple, couple of words, statements that are complete healing in themselves. And if our will is free to manifest each of those the way it's supposed to be in your own creation, not in making stuff up, in your inner creation where you create, when you manage to create realities within yourself, not even necessarily outside you yet, but within yourself, that you create this whole new world of an alignment with the spirit, and the will in the heart, to a point where your physical body begins to change the alchemy, change the chemistry, change the way it moves, change the way it express. We are learning now that the way we are expressing anything in this world was often verbal, and then it turns into some kind of form. But we often use old form mixed up with some other old form to make a new form. What are we doing in here? we go into the place of nothing, and something that has never been before is going to be created. And in the course of love, they call it, the birth of the new. Yeah, is every moment brand new, but not just like, oh yeah, I'm looking at the same nature out there, but I'm seeing it differently. Or am I creating something that I've never seen before? Like I said, you see a color that you go, well, it's blue, but it's a blue like I've never seen before. And it's not because it's like a new color within all the shades of blue, but because it has a texture, and it has a quality, and it has a temperature, and it has all these different aspects of creation that are beyond even senses, and beyond imagining, and beyond into the realm of the new, the realm of creation. And that's what really creation is. So, for example, like Jesus says in those sayings, it's like, tell us who we are. He says, well, you're the light of the world. Like he said, just say that. I'm the light of the world. And then, so that's the idea. And like, how do we create this idea? How do we manifest this idea into the experience of being the light of the world, where you are exactly like Jesus is? Yeah, because he is. There's no end to that idea of Christ. It's there. It's always a manifestation. It's already it. Now it has to be ignited in you. So it's not just an idea. Well, you're the light of the world. What does that really mean? Well, if you say it, who? Oh, you mean I. And then you get the feeling of I. Who is that I that you are? Yeah? It has to manifest itself now. Because all your past images of you are not you. They're just your images of who you think you are. And then they create your physical reality, and then you find yourself in the world. But that's old. That's a tombstone, That's a light that's in the coffin. It's an old thing. It's going to drag and create, not create, but make more of the old. You wake up, Groundhog Day, same thing. You get up and just like, oh no. So instead of this, like, you create a new world. You got to create it. And unless your creative power, which is the will, is free, free will, if your will is free, it's free to create. If it's not free, and if you still hate any feelings that exist in yourself, you're somewhere shutting down this flow in you. And instead of manifesting something brand new in yourself, you live in the world you see. And it seems like the world is affecting you rather than you are affecting the world, right? So now, let's get to the next step. So I am the light of the world. Yeah, I am what? I am the light. So, Will, what is light? What is the real light? So now you're waiting. You're not rushing in with all your past experiences with light. You are in the now thing, going like, okay, is there another light that I may not be aware of? Because let me tell you, there are layers and layers and layers of light that if some of the light would just happen right now, I don't think you'd be able to handle it. Unless you're really vibrating on a very high speed, you will not be able to vibrate. Like God says, I'm the highest vibration. There's no way you can vibrate that way. It's just, no matter what you try, you will not be able to do it. It's been created that way. right? There is some source that can't be, it can't get a virus. And for a while in the righteous soul, it seems like this light has got some kind of virus. But eventually, it only has a virus because it thought it was alone. It thought it was this singular mind, Scenarios where somebody says, I am the singular mind, and everybody follows that singular mind, including Jesus. Jesus says, don't follow me. So get out of here. It's like, I'm not going to write anything. I'm not going to do anything. I say a few things. You want it, good. If you don't, do your thing. But it says, hey, do you want to wake up? You're the light of the world. Find out what that is. And the day you do, let that go. Because we have these experiences and then we go, ooh, that was good. I want to have this again. And here we go. Something brand new is emerging, but you want the thing from yesterday. And you did again. Right? So, I'm the light of the world. It's new every day. Because God is new every day. That's why we can't steal God. That's why we can't name it. We can't, doubt that can be told. It's not eternal. Because the minute you nail it to be something, you want to cross with it. It's a tombstone. It's something that's written. And we are more liquid than rigid when we're free. So free will is a free-flowing feeling realm that does not have a language as we know language. It doesn't have words as we know words. Yet it has a capacity to manifest an idea into feeling, and then from the feeling it creates it into the physical. And that's why we have these bodies as a kind of like a barometer of how is our creation going. Look what you created. Oh my God, my back is sore. You know what I mean? So anyway, all these sayings, you are the light of the world. Sit with that for an hour and let it be born in you what that truly means. You are the stars. What? You're the stars. Just feel that. Like you're this shining little thing that can express anything. It can even express misery. If you actually didn't oppose your feeling of absolute misery, you could actually find that you feel quite good in there. I remember when I was a kid, I was already doing this. I remember once I was like depressed. I was lying there going like, wow, I'm so depressed. And I was just watching it and observing that state. And I'm going, someone said, you're really depressed. And I said, do you know, I have to say, I actually quite like it. And it wasn't like I was kind of, how do you call that? What do you say? It was like a really beautiful state. I was like, wait, there's nothing wrong with this. I'm just in a full expression. I'm in a full depression. And that's what I was doing. I was depressing. And when I stopped judging it as bad, already then I go like, this is actually quite an amazing thing. And also, I tell you how I got to this right use of will. When I was a little kid, maybe I was like 8 or 9, I was sick. And so I was in bed, not really sick, but I was just like, didn't go to school. And I remember falling asleep, I don't know, in a day. I know it was a day. I closed my eyes, and within like no time, I had like a golden dream. I had a golden dream. And when I woke up, I went like, oh my God, what was that? And obviously I had a little manifestation of you are the light of the world happening in me in my dream. Because that was the only place where my mind was present and quiet enough and sleepy in order to manifest something that it wouldn't step into and destroy, right? And so I remember always wanting to come back to that same place. And so it has such profound desire to be able to find this again. And eventually my whole life has evolved around this, the music of being able to feel or feel in order to express it in music and in words and in the experience of these words. So the will is really just part of the spirit that polarizes itself in order to experience. I mean, I virtually quoted the Righteous Soul book, number 1, somewhere in there it says. I could virtually start saying anywhere in these books, I could just give me a line and I'll continue. I've read it so many times, back to front. So, yeah, I'll leave you with this, yeah. And I'd love to do a talk, maybe an extra podcast number 9. I would really like to do about these sayings of Jesus, because in the Righteous of All says, I send you Jesus as my heart, says God. I sent you Jesus as my heart. But these teachings are not fully understood on earth as we are now. So we're coming to a time when these teachings are being understood, not only understood, but they're being lived, and being lived, they fully manifest as a reality. And in my reality, I can see people do crazy shit, crazy stuff. And I also see who they are. And it's not what person does that defines him. It's who he is. And I see everyone, in my language, I see everyone either as whole or as Christ or as the star, You are the temple of truth. I see people as a temple of truth. And it's not some trippy hippie drug addict experience. It's the real day in, day out, being stoned on love, being stoned on this non-opposition against, I'm not attacking my feelings. I am with my feelings unconditionally, and they create unconditionally, and often surprise my day with the freshness and newness of that creation. And so when you take any of these statements that are in those sayings of Jesus, which is God's heart, which is the love, and I can't say this again. Like I'm translating some stuff into Slovakian and doing podcasts like these. I've done in January. I've done like 50 podcasts and some lessons and things that it has been so good to go back into my original language. And what I find really beautiful, like in our language, we're having this masculine, feminine as very strong in our language. You just every word can express whether it's masculine or feminine just by ending of the word. And there's one thing that I found that's just so profound, and that is that the word God in Slovakian is masculine, but God's love is feminine. And this is perfect reflection of what this Righteous Soul is. The idea of unmovable, an idea, just boom, an idea manifests into the feeling expressing into the fullness. That fullness aligns the spirit and the will in an idea. It creates heart, creates love, right? Love that's never been felt before, a new love. that we can now handle vibrating in ourselves, not necessarily in the chest. And in our entire being, this love just takes over. And it begins to create physical. So all these sentences he says are basically just manifestations of exactly like, why is misfortune haunting us? Well, what you sow, you also reap. So what you sow is an idea. You grab an idea, and now you sow something. Yeah. The minute you hold that idea for a while, you begin to feel it. So if you gossip somebody, you're sowing in you that unpleasant feeling that comes from gossiping somebody. It's never really nice. When we gossip somebody, we walk away. It's never like, whoa, that was a yummy feeling. I just freaking nailed the guy to the cross. It never works. We only gossip because there's something in us we don't want to feel, and we want to make ourselves right about nailing someone to a cross. Bang. There's the whole story of Jesus and the crucifixion. Rather than resurrecting into the full expression of who you are in that very moment. So what you sow, you reap. You do have to decide what thoughts you want to have. You do have to have an intent, to find, if you want to find conflict and you want to keep nailing people to the cross, well, that's going to be your reality. You will also reap that. It will come back to you. And because every time you attack somebody, you don't even know that you're actually creating a defense system. Because now, because you attack them, you think they're going to come back at you. And they might not even know you've attacked them. But you still create a defense. And now you become defensive. And anything comes your way, you're defensive. Because you go like, what if they know that person? What if it's already coming back at me? And so we become, not ourselves, become this massive shield of grievances and against grievances. And that's exactly, what you sow, you reap. I mean, how it can't be more truer than that is, right? Misfortune is your choice, right? You're choosing that. It's like no way. It's like you can stop anytime and go, hang on a second, what am I doing? And that is the mind training. You get yourself to see, it's like, hey, do I want to have this reality or am I ready for something new?